It's an event that many of us are aware of, the sinking of the unsinkable RMS Titanic. This tragedy occurred on April 15, 1912, during a voyage that was supposed to stretch from Southampton, England to New York City. RMS Titanic is one of the most famous ships still to this day. In 1912 it cost an estimated $7.5 million, roughly $400 million in today's money. Only 705 people escaped joining the ship's fate in the cold Atlantic waters. The survivors waited in the ocean on lifeboats, rafts and debris, and this was for over an hour and a half before they were rescued by RMS Carpathia, the ship that picked up on the Titanic's distress signal. The other passengers, approximately 1,500 people, did not survive this disaster, particularly due to an inadequate number of lifeboats. Although the tragedy of the Titanic is widely known, many people are not aware of the lifeboat that was found floating in the ocean a month after the sinking. The wooden lifeboat was the last one to be sent into the cold waters. Unfortunately though, it was found too late. It was spotted around 200 miles from the sinking of the Titanic, and this was by RMS Oceanic. This was on May 13, 1912. Those who went in for a closer look were met with a chilling sight. On the lifeboat were 2 firemen from the Titanic's engine room, and also a first-class passenger, who was able to be identified as Thompson Beatty. Thompson was still in his dinner jacket. All 3 of them had passed away. After searching the boat, crew members found a wedding ring engraved with Edward to Gerda. This is the only thing that was left of our husband and wife before they were claimed by the ocean. The recovery mission was detailed by first-hand accounts and photographs, and it's helped historians and researchers to build a picture as to what happened on that day. The lifeboat was able to be identified as Collapsible A, and it's said to have been the last lifeboat to leave the Titanic, with researchers going on to say that it would have left the ship at around 2:15 AM on the 15th of April. Historians were able to look back and find out information about some of the passengers. For example, Thomas Beatty, who was on the last lifeboat, left his native Canada in order to go and live in France. He never planned to go on the Titanic, but it was revealed that one of his friends fell ill, and this was while they was on a trip, so he decided to change plans. Being wealthy, Thompson was able to pay a premium, which allowed him to join some of the world's most successful individuals. He penned a chilling letter to his mother days before he was set to sail, saying the following: "We are changing ships and coming home in a new unsinkable boat." One of the passengers on the Oceanic who found the lifeboat wrote the following letter: "I crossed the Atlantic 1 month after the Titanic catastrophe. We picked up one of the lifeboats, with 2 unrecognizable corpses of a passenger in evening dress and 2 firemen. The arms came off in the hands of the Oceanic boarding officer. The bodies were buried in a prayer service read. The lifeboat then hauled onto our deck." End quote. New details are still coming forward about what happened on that day, and one that's captured people's attention is that of the alleged fire that happened on board the Titanic. Titanic survivor John Dealey revealed shortly after the disaster there had been a fire on the ship, and later research suggested it could have played a major role in the accident. John Dealey was born in London in 1883. He worked as a stoker, and went aboard the Titanic to tend the furnace for a monthly wage. He and 11 other firemen were instructed to control the coal bunker fire that was burning in Boiler Room 6, even though these types of fires are extremely difficult to manage. He recounted this experience to the Stephensport Journal 2 weeks after he survived the Titanic sinking. According to his report, the fire started in bunker number 6. There were hundreds of tons of coal stored there. The coal on top of the bunker was wet, as all of the coal should have been, but down at the bottom of the bunker the coal was dry. The coal at the bottom of the bunker took fire, and it smouldered for days. The wet coal on top kept the flames from coming through, but down in the bottom of the bunker the flames were raging. The stokers were beginning to get alarmed over it, but the officers told them to keep their mouth shut. They didn't want to alarm the passengers. According to Titanic expert Ray Boston, the coal fire on board the Titanic actually started during the speed trials, and this was 10 days before its scheduled departure. However, the Titanic still left Southampton with its passengers as planned. The ship's firemen were not able to get the fire under control during the trip, so they planned to empty the coal bunker after their arrival in New York and call in the help of fireboats. Tragically, they never got this opportunity, and the iceberg would ultimately be the one to empty Bunker 6. The bunker was situated right above the largest hole the iceberg tore on the ship, but just because the iceberg did the final damage to the ship and directly caused its sinking, doesn't mean the fire on board didn't have an effect. The fire was estimated to be 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, and this was by Glamio Rain, a fire science expert at the Imperial College of London. Thanks to this intense heat from the fire, the hull of the ship, which includes bottom, sides and deck, may have been damaged long before it struck the iceberg, making it more vulnerable and susceptible to more destruction. Irish journalist Anand Monally, who studied the Titanic for over 30 years, found evidence of this through his investigations, and this was of photographs taken of the ship before it even began its journey. He discovered 30-foot-long black marks on the hull, right at the spot that would eventually be impacted by the iceberg. Engineers at the Imperial College of London were able to connect the mark to the raging coal fire. Another way the fire may have escalated the collision was through its influence on the ship's speed. The Titanic was operating at full pace when it hit the iceberg, above the recommendations for the conditions. Stokers may have been shoveling as much coal as possible into the furnace to fight the fire, which could have caused the engines to work harder, leading to the increase in speed. The extra momentum would have made evading the iceberg more difficult, and it also would have increased the force of the impact. The fire may have also sped up the sinking process. Even though the iceberg struck the hull, the Titanic designer who was aboard the ship believed the bulkhead, the protective wall inside the hull, would hold the water back. However, the bulkhead had been damaged in the fire, which may have shortened the time it took for the water to flood in. While it's likely that the iceberg would have sunk the ship regardless, it's probable that with less fire damage to the bulkhead, it would have held up for longer. So what do you make of these Titanic discoveries? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below, and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.